Welcome back to The Matrix. Sometimes people ask me, Sam, what's your favourite thing about Doctor Who and its ever-expanding continuity? The answer is simple. It's this TARDIS wiki page, which tells you about the Cyberman, only known as Thatchos. Thatchos is a parody of the 1980s Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, Margaret Thatcher. No shit! This brand of cyber leader, or should I say cyber woman, actually comes from a sketch, so, I don't know, make your own rules. Looking at me like I'm Daddy Canon? Come on now.
That's enough! You will be privatised!
Don't you mean liquidated?
It's the same thing!
Though apparently an invalid source, whatever that is. I do appreciate how the wiki tries to justify its appearance and design regardless. Despite being identified as the Cybermen's leader, Thatchos appears to be neither a cyber leader or cyber controller. Though partially obscured by her hair, Thatchos is shown to have a generic cyber head with silver side handles as opposed to black. What could it mean? It doesn't fit into the series remotely. It's a piss take of how every other classic villain was a parody of Margaret Thatcher in the 80s. But there's still a clear indication that people want it to be there. And because of how this wiki works, they try to make sense of it anyway. There's a need there, and I feel that. There's a canonical reason why Davros' face keeps changing. This one may sound like over-explanation fan wank, but actually, no. This story from Time War Box Set 4 blew me away, and it just also happens to add to the continuity in a new and exciting way. That's how it should be done, by the way, fellas. Palindrome is a two-parter that best establishes Davros' role in the Time War. On the Dalek side of the conflict, it's a prequel to both Parting of the Ways and Journey's End, to see how we go from the Dalek Civil War, the Emperor versus Davros, to their current positions in the Revival. That being Emperor and guy living in their attic.
I may take time to settle in this universe, but my Daleks did not kill me!
The Emperor believes you have a use in the Time War.
No. No, I've got the word. You're the Dalek's pet.
Palindrome introduces us to the multiverse. Yeah, how many years of Time War-based storytelling has Doctor Who done? And only now we're getting to the concept of a multiverse. But then so is everything in the minute in popular culture, so it's a given. They gave this story to John Dorney, as the Doctor, Bliss, and their new ally, Davros, tried to jeopardize the terror of the Dalek Time Controller, who's gained the ability to fuse parallel dimensions together. That's probably the most insane thing a Dalek has ever done, but we gloss over it. Via Davros as a conduit, the Dalek Time Controller makes every single parallel world become the same parallel world. If all the multiverses coexist, that's an infinite supply of Daleks. Apparently not an infinite supply of Time Lords, but I'll explain later. This leads poor Davros to having a multiversal identity crisis, as all the different versions of Davros compete for the one brain, except the template that they're all combining onto is a really nice man. A really kindly old scientist called Davros who lives with his foul wife.
He's definitely looking a bit different, isn't he? He was a lot more humanoid yesterday.
I know what you mean. He was also a lot more on our side.
Oh, precisely which side is that, Doctor?
So watch slowly as he's turned into... Oh no. Is the he meant to be the... Oh no. It doesn't work exactly. But the takeaway here is that Big Finish have just killed the classical version of Davros and replaced him with this new one.
Do not try to move.
I can't get up! What's happened to me? What is this chair?
So, ever wondered why the Julian Bleach version of the character looks so different? It's not because of updated prosthetics. No, that would be too easy. It's because Big Finish are doing mad things with this character. And although the range is over, Nicholas Briggs said in the 2021 Vortex magazine that there's still big plans for the Eighth Doctor's involvement in the Time War, and that they're not done with this new palindrome Davros. Now, of course, it's still Julian Bleach and it's still Terry Malloy, those are still two very different actors, but it's this new version of Dave that sticks around for all of the Time War and the Revival. This multiverse hodgepodge of all of Davros' greatest hits. In this range, the Doctor and company almost do put the last Great Time War to bed. They almost undo it. They almost stop it from existing entirely. They get this close, and then it's followed with another bout of Paul McGann amnesia, for old time's sake. But the Dalek time strategist, he cooks up his own modded Davros, one that would be subservient to him, and then annihilate his version of Skaro. This new homemade Davros then picks a fight with the newly resurrected Dalek Emperor, before then being plonked in stasis. We'll bring him out whenever we need him. Something they'll regret later, because every other appearance of Davros in the Time War involves him creating some kind of cosmic monster that threatens Daleks and Time Lords alike. With the last series, a lot of people were applauding the fact they said the word multiverse out loud. Nobody should be surprised about this fact, not only because it informs so much of Doctor Who's past, but also because these days everybody has a multiverse. My nan has a multiverse. It's really corporate aware and cynical, and we keep trying to get her to stop, but she just keeps saying synergy. For a multiverse, any amount of continuity can be cleaned up. It's a grab bag, it's a pick and mix. Choose your own adventure. I'm just saying words at this point. Anyway, this Davros isn't this Davros, and this Davros are all these Davroses, so, fuck you. Fact number 2!
There are worlds out there where the sky is burning, where the seas are asleep, and the rivers dream. People made of smoke, cities made of song. Somewhere there's danger, somewhere there's injustice, and somewhere else the tea's getting cold. Come on, Ace, we've got work to do.
We play the contest again, Time Lord.
Fenric.
Challenging me in my own domain. Amicable, yet futile. Name your challenge.
In which story did Ace get the hots for her great-grandson?
Huh?
Explain Ace's family tree to me,
Oh, this is a collab, isn't it? Yeah, take it away.
Right, so Ace is pretty unique among classic companions for having a few love interests, as in more than one or two. She's got some British Army squaddy and neo-Nazi who works for the Daleks, a cheetah lady, her great-grandson. Yeah, Ace has a very complicated family tree, as The Curse of Fenric written by her creator Ian Briggs tells us. Fenric refers to the descendants of the Viking who stole the flask containing him and took it to England as his wolves in this story, an allusion to both the Ragnarok myth of Fenrir being the wolf that eats the moon in said myth, and the theme of the story that he and the Doctor are locked in a sort of metaphorical chess game. The idea is that since his entrapment, Fenric has been influencing these descendants as his pawns in the grand chess game, including Dr. Judson, Millington, Reverend Wainwright, and Ace. But how does Ace fit into this family tree? In episode 1, we get our first clue that there's some extended family tree going on here. In the church graveyard, the Doctor and Ace find the grave of Joseph Sundvik and his wife Florence. Sundvik, a very Nordic name that, but buried with the elderly couple is a girl named Mary Eliza Millington. Going by her age, dying as a baby in 1898, with Joseph born in 1820, she's probably a granddaughter or great-granddaughter of the couple. It was quite common in the 19th century when graves were expensive to bury those who died young in the graves of distant relatives like great-grandparents they probably never met. The family probably couldn't have afforded a new plot. And going by her age, the child, and his age, the child is most likely the sister of Commander Millington, the nefarious genocidal naval base commander with swastikas in his office, obsessed with chess and Norse myth. Coincidence? You might say, yeah, probably at this point. As the story progresses, the Doctor grows a great interest in the parish records, which is the reason he and Ace visit the church again later in the story. The Reverend provides him with the material, and we find him researching the children of Joseph and Florence and their descendants. He mentions them having several daughters, and later tells Ace that those daughters all married men from other local families. Names of ancient families: Judson, Millington, Wainwright, and Dudman. Now these surnames all belong to various characters from the town in this story. The scientist studying the Ultima machine, the naval base commander, the vicar, and a Wren all bear these surnames respectively. And who is that Wren? Kathleen Dudman, who Ace befriends with her daughter Audrey. And of course, who does Audrey turn out to be but Ace's mother? So in many ways, The Curse of Fenric is just one big massive family reunion for Ace. Not only does she get to meet her mum and gran, but she gets to meet all her third, fourth cousins, I guess? A couple of times removed. But how do a bunch of Russians fit into all this? Well, there's a scene when Fenric is possessing Judson that he encounters Captain Soren, the Red Army toy boy Ace has grown fond of, who is able to smite vampires with the power of communism. Soren reveals he was chosen to lead the expedition to retrieve the Ultima machine because he had an English grandmother who taught him how to speak the language. Fenric reveals this woman, called Emily Wilson in the episode, was Joseph Sundvik's granddaughter. So Ace has the googly eyes for her third cousin twice removed and later names her cat after him. I guess she could have more appropriately called it Kara after her actual feline girlfriend, but she just loved her cousin more, I guess. Or is he more than that? Well, in 1990, after the show was cancelled, Target published the novelisation of The Curse of Fenric, written by its writer and Ace's creator Ian Briggs. Now, Briggs adds a lot to this novelisation. Because the show was cancelled, a lot more creative freedom had been given to the writers. So Briggs decided to write it as a sort of director's cut of Curse of Fenric. The book is excellent and contains a lot of interludes which give added details, such as a school essay Millington wrote describing Ragnarok, a skaldic poem describing the voyage of Fenric from Constantinople to Northumbria, and my personal favourite, an Arabian Nights-style tale of the Doctor imprisoning Fenric in the flask. But added as well to this is an epilogue, featuring the Seventh Doctor and a much older Ace, who goes by her given name of Dorothy from now on. This epilogue is really refreshing to read after the nightmare for Ace that is The Curse of Fenric. She's now much older, and has forgiven the Doctor for all the manipulations he's made. They genuinely feel like equals in the way they talk to one another in this story, but there's an interesting detail. Ace at this time is now living in 19th century Paris, and she has a new boyfriend. A Russian one. A pocket watch chimed softly. The gentleman pulled it from his waistcoat. Good heavens, 1887, I really should be going. Oh no, stay until this evening, please. The young lady tugged at his arm. I haven't seen you for years and I was hoping you'd come to the ball. There's someone I want you to meet. The older gentleman looked at the young lady. She blushed and smiled. You won't be cross, will you? He's a young count from St. Petersburg, Count Sorin. He's the perfect image of his great-grandson, and I think I've fallen hopelessly in love with him. The older gentleman frowned. There are times when I wonder what I've done to your species' gene pool. If your children's ears stick out, don't blame me, he grumbled. This story was further compounded by Kate Orman using it in the epilogue to Set Piece, her novel depicting Ace leaving the TARDIS while travelling with the Doctor and Bernice Summerfield. Ace is now time-travelling on her own, but appears to have settled in Paris for the long term, as a home base. She and the Doctor are shown meeting up again after this epilogue, where she and Count Sorin are still going steady, and she expresses a strong desire to have children. This version of Ace shows up again for Benny and Ace's wedding in Happy Endings, going by the name of Dorothy Serena McShane, saying she and Soren pretend to be married for the sake of respectability. And though they seem to have broken up, she expresses a strong desire to get back together. It's left open-ended whether they do, and whether Ace does really become a countess, but I think it's safe to say there's a strong chance that Ace fancied her own great-grandson without realising. Damn. Still, she's not the only incestuous character in her extended family. If the novelisation's anything to go by, Judson and Millington were so in love, Millington put Judson in a wheelchair during a rugby game for giving the glad eye to another player. Ian Briggs seems to really like hooking cousins up with one another.
Wow. Well, that's kind of fucked.
Yes. Yes, it is.
And you just never warned her? I think you're more evil than me.
Oof, I am zooming through these this year. Thank you for your viewership. Thank you to all these lovely people for their support of the channel. And thank you to Seán, who provided a great McCoy impression and our last fact. Just in case you were wondering why I suddenly turned Irish and became informative and funny.